Quote, "The sting of death is sin. If sin is responsible for death, who is responsible for sin? The identity himself, if he does not accept reality instead of unreality, truth instead of falsity. Doing away with false identification does away with death, the same as doing away with sleep does away with the sleeper. No man, woman, or church shall save us from sin and death. Nothing but truth shall make us free. The truth that we ourselves are the truth. And thus we must identify ourselves, mind and body, as the truth, the life and the way, here and now. Many walk with the dead and sleep with the dead, because they believe souls can be saved, but bodies are to be buried, cremated, and returned to dust. God did not make death. Quotes, "And he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. He will swallow up death in victory." Isaiah 25, 7, 8. What is the veil? False beliefs. He who is to swallow up death is none other than you and I, as the light, the eternal Lord Self, awake and alive. The one who is asleep is the identity who must wake up, and his waking state is the Lord Self. Abandoning false beliefs about one's self and body, one sees the real by the real. He knows the divine by the divine. His revelation is the fire which burns up the chaff, the understanding which knows, "I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from his way and live. Turn ye from your evil ways. For why will ye die, O house of Israel?" Ezekiel 33:11. What is closer to oneself than himself? Nothing and no one. Thus, until he can say, "I am reality, my mind is reality, my body is reality," he is not close enough to God, his perfect self, the life that is imperishable and without sin or death. Those who believe their body to be external to them, material, physical, are condemning their body to death, even while it appears to be alive. Even to think their body to be an image or reflection condemns it to death, for what image is ever alive? Continually they call body, which is not evil, as though it were. In the atomic age, light penetrates even the darkest places, blasts out ignorant doctrines, opens up the graves in which many have buried themselves, lo, these many years. The atomic age shall bring forth the body or form not made by hands, eternal in reality. Remember this. Body is not external to us or apart from us, that we should identify ourselves with one thing, perfection, and identify our body with another thing, imperfection. Shall we purify our body? No, accept the same reality and truth for your body as you do for your soul, mind, and spirit. The absolute truth can be found and known in any heart ready to receive it. Quotes, "If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there." Psalms 139, 8. The self is ever present. Nothing but delusion and ignorance keep one from functioning in and as this pure and perfect selfhood. The substance of the whole sun is the substance of each ray. Likewise, the perfection of each one of us, in mind, body, and world, is not that of single individualities, but that of life and being as one perfect all. Each possesses the all. Each is the all. Each is both the each and the all. To know this is to set ourselves free from any contrary delusion. In moments of illumination, we do not think of anything as material or anything as spiritual. To us, all is consciousness, even all formation. Nothing appears as external to us. The seeing of the real by the real is our true life and way. Never need we attempt to apply the truth to the truth or to the real. Never need we attempt to apply the truth to the untrue or to the unreal. We need only know I am the truth, the real, and then live as this truth and as this real. This means to know my mind is the real, my body is the real, my world is the real, and to know it as the self in spiritual existence. Many have already abandoned the false belief that they have a mind of their own to be corrected and purified, and have identified themselves as divine mind now. Yet they still claim a body of their own, which to them is material, mortal, perishable, and in need of constant attention in order to preserve and keep it alive. Down through the ages, the body has been referred to by such terms as dust, clay, a vile body, a sensuous body, material body, this old thing, physical organism, and other similar words. It is high time that they who have come to accept divine mind to be their only mind now advance to accept divine body to be their only body. Many who still feel themselves in need of wholeness should rise now into newness of life, sufficient to have the true and the real understanding of body. In spiritual existence, we have a real body, a perfect body, an incorruptible body. When shall we come into this experience, if not now? Many believe that others sin against their bodies when they overeat or undereat. But how many sin when they do not know the truth about body? not seeing or comprehending it as it is in reality and truth. The paramount question is, are we entitled to a real, spiritual, everlasting body now, the same as we are entitled to a real, perfect, divine mind now, or not? We cannot reconcile a perfect state for mind and an imperfect state for body. Let us look with eyes that have vision and see what answer we can find in the Bible. In Genesis, we read that man, a human being, has a body of dust, mortal human material, doomed to sickness and death. Looking to the teaching of Christ Jesus, we find a larger hope for ourselves than to be a human man, and a far greater destiny for the body than for it to be dust and death. If body is to be safe from sickness and death, who is to have such a body? You and I. How? Through our knowledge of and identification with the real body, the body of pure consciousness, and our withdrawal from all other beliefs. The last thing to understand is body. Said Christ, the light, perfection of the body is the eye, true perception of body. If therefore thine eye, perception, be single, pure and unadulterated, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, if you believe one thing for mind and another thing for body, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. Your whole body will appear to be structural, mortal, subject to sickness and death. Matthew 6:22-23. Accepting one's spirit, mind, soul to be imperishable and everlasting, and believing one's body to be to the contrary, causes the illusion of age, limitation, and death, even as Paul exclaimed, O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? Romans 7:24. Deliverance is in us. Thou shalt not see the soul or spirit one way, perfect, and see the body in another way, imperfect. Quotes, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. 1 Corinthians 6:20. Could we do this if our body were mortality to start with? The one and only way to fulfill such an order is to see and accept our body as well as our mind to belong to reality and truth. For this to be possible, we shall necessarily need to surrender and abandon the false belief that we are now living in a human existence instead of the spiritual and real. Quotes, who shall change our vile body, that it may be fashioned like unto his glorious body? Philippians 3:21. And the answer? We shall. Many wait for death to set them free from a material form. Freedom from materiality comes in a living way. Quotes, we shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. Already some of us are awake, seeing that it is we ourselves who are to raise ourselves. It is not Jesus coming in the clouds, not Christ as another. Cease expecting some Superman to blow a trumpet from the skies, and lo, you shall have a spiritual form. When shall this corruptible put on incorruption, and this mortal put on immortality? When we are ready to lay down the false belief for the true understanding, and when we accept body to be as pure, holy, immortal, and eternal as soul or spirit. Reader, how willing and ready are you? Defending his messianic claims before the Jews, Jesus spoke of the Father, the reality of being, saying unto them, Ye have neither heard his voice at any time, nor seen his shape. He knew they were unillumined and unreceptive. Of Jesus it is written, who being in the form of God thought it not robbery to be equal with God. Philippians 2:6. The perfect form exists. It is not a form of matter, dust, or mortality. It is the form of truth, light, and life everlasting. The unbeliever cannot hear the voice, nor see the shape. Jesus gave a vivid and thrilling proof of the real body in what is termed the Transfiguration. Matthew 17. It was after 6 days that Jesus went into a high mountain apart. The number 6 denotes the full time of labor, struggle, strife. When we have ceased to believe in the necessity to labor with thought, we are in the high spiritual perception. Only here can illumination take place. It is here, in self-illumination, that we discern the truth about body. That is, that body is the perfect form of pure consciousness, free of structure, mortality, death, like unto his glorious body. How foolish one is when unillumined without self-revelation. He cannot know that there is consciousness and there is form and they are one. This cannot be explained to him, not understood by him intellectually, but only when intellect has been put aside and one has turned with all his heart to his own all-understanding being. Here one can see, hear, touch, and handle forms which are as real to us as the trees we see standing before us in our everyday living. We can see beauty, color, things in variety and contrast. They are certain, they are real, yet they have not been, and no reality outside our consciousness. The less one thinks of body and affairs, the better. Body is not a thing outside of us, nor are our affairs, that we should try to control them. All is within us, even body itself. When we think of ourselves as the perfect mind and being, the infinite, we include our body and all our affairs. Living in harmony with the self, we need no other thought of body or of affairs. In fact, our consciousness is our body and is our affairs. This is the real way. This is the Christ way. The Christ way is never one of work, treatment, or demonstration, but of labor-less freedom in and as the infinite, living as an identity which is the one. Then we know within our hearts that the divine is all. There is no other consciousness. There is no other manifestation. There is no other world. Many wait for Jesus to come again in human form, appearing in the sky, coming to give them perfect bodies and eternal life. Until they leave the personal for the one mind, they cannot comprehend that Christ is the Spirit of truth, self-revelation, the light which brings complete deliverance to the extent that one identifies himself completely with it. Perfect body does not depend upon any positive statements that one can make or hold with a mind of his own, nor upon the way that he can think so that God can work through him. The statement that whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap, is true and certain enough, but it applies only to those who live in a human existence, identifying themselves as human beings. It has no meaning to those who live in spiritual existence, identifying themselves with the real and the true only. Regardless what thoughts or beliefs one sows or what he reaps through personal thinking, he is still subject to human existence, human law, human weakness, with their uncertainties, insecurities, and limitations. What is human existence but the existence one experiences when he has turned away from the pure, the perfect, and self-existent one, the all and the alone of being, body, and universe? Many teachers advocate the cultivation of a health consciousness or a wealth consciousness. Alas, though they may prosper for a time, adopting this method, they still belong in the 6 days of labor and toil, of impermanency and failure, for they have turned from that which is their fullness in all ways. The thing one cultivates is bound to fail and fall. Regardless what kind of a personal consciousness one builds for himself, it is still human, and he is still outside the kingdom. The prayers of those who live today as in a material state of existence are for a lasting peace. They entirely overlook or have not heard that real lasting peace belongs to spiritual existence alone. Quotes, "My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth." John 14:27. Moreover, they have not apparently heard this. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. Matthew 10:34. If only one would listen to his heart, he would see and he would understand spiritual things spiritually. He would see that he must separate himself from the belief that he is another being, not the one, and from the belief that he lives in another world, not the one and only, the Father's house, pure spiritual consciousness. Peace is already established in spiritual existence. Why not take it where it is? Why cry, peace, peace, when there is no peace? Jeremiah 6:14. No amount of constructive exercises of mind will ever bring the peace, wholeness, and glory of heaven to one while he remains a human being in a human existence. The day of the sword, in quotes, the day of the harvest must come. In this atomic age, this day of the Lord is upon us. Our experience, earth, will be the same as our reality, heaven, to the extent that we reorientate ourselves as did the prodigal. Take and abide in the spiritual and perfect alone. Go in and possess the land. Without delay, accept your perfect being and perfect body now, where it is and as it is. Take it and cease trying to make it. Give up your physical and mental ways to obtain that which is already established spiritually. Get out of the far country into spiritual consciousness, out of the many ways into the one way, out of toiling with thought into laborless being and experiencing, out of man into God. Spiritual consciousness is known only by the lessening of the false and spurious in oneself. The prodigal finds nothing of the eternal in the far country. In order to know and to have the real and the eternal, one must reorientate himself. Thus shall it be with everyone. They shall need to leave the cultivation of personal consciousness for identification as that consciousness which is unrelated to it. In the absolute or spiritual existence, we do not practice anything, not even praise or gratitude. Here, our thoughts and feelings are spontaneous, natural, light and brilliant. In order to put away the results of false thinking, one must put away personal mind itself. There is no other way. To the extent that he can do this, the perfect real is found within him. The altogether perfect and inspirational mind does not need to be worked, demonstrated, or put into action. It just needs our acceptance of it, our heart's love for it, and our joyous identification as it. Great is the fall of that house built upon the sand. If only one would identify himself as that mind which is already and eternally established, real, permanent, eternal, instead of turning from it to build a consciousness, a body, and a world of his own. In human existence, one may learn obedience by the things which he suffers. When one treats and demonstrates, he is acting on his own, trying to do things of and for himself, whereas every man at this his best state is altogether vanity. Psalms 39:5. When he abandons false identification, he identifies with the real instead of the unreal, the true instead of the assumptive, God instead of man. Now he is close enough to the self to be the self. A soft, sweet peace comes over him. He knows in his heart that he is an identity of the infinite. Yet he is also the infinite, since the infinite is all. Do we have a distinct identity? Yes. We are not only an identity of the One, but we are the One itself. The same as a ray of light is a ray, yet it is the sun also. It is high time that people awake to see that they but keep themselves separated from God when they accept themselves to be an idea of mine, but not mind, and an expression of life, but not life, and a thought of God, but not God. Put away the imperfect and incomplete for the perfect and the complete. To refuse to accept the great revelation when it comes is to refuse your own joy and glory in spiritual existence, virtually to shut yourself out of the kingdom. The each is not lost in the whole, but remains both the each and the whole, not one with, but one. Whether it be health, wealth, or happiness, our self can and will provide these things for us. We need do no mental work at all. Obey the spiritual requirements. Love the self above all. Surrender the sense of the personal and alien. Abide in me. Then ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. John 15:7. It is true that what God is, we must be, but not as human beings, not as cultivated consciousness, not as translated mortal minds. Only one way exists from the beginning of time. Quotes, I will arise and go to my Father. It is not a human mind that is to rise, but it is I, the identity himself. Everyone must depart from thinking, working, laboring, demonstrating with personal consciousness. He must stop it. This he can do only as he sees that it must be done. He cannot do it mentally. When his heart shows him that this is what he should do, and he fervently desires it, then he has turned from the false to the true, and lo, he is in the high mountain of illumination. Now indeed, in a true and living way, he is entitled to all the things in the Father's house, the wonders and glories of spiritual existence. Quotes, all these blessings shall come on thee, and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. And all people shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, and thou shalt be above only. If that thou hearken to the commandments of the Lord thy God, to observe and do them. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. Deuteronomy 28th chapter. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Habakkuk 2:20. Who is the Lord to you? What is his holy temple? And what earth is to keep silence before him? The Lord is our one own glorious selfhood, our all-knowing, all-caring, all-perfect self. The holy temple is pure consciousness. The earth is our experience. Our earth experience is crystal pure when we live in and as divine consciousness. The one perfect consciousness provides illimited good for all, so that there is no lack or limitation anywhere, even as the one sun provides illimitable light for all its myriads of rays, so that wherever they are, no darkness is present. The earth is light before them. When we give up separate individuality for identification as that identity which is as much the one being God as a ray of light is the one sun, then our whole state of experience, the earth, is that of peace and harmony, no lack or discord anywhere. Quotes, at destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, and thou shalt know that thy tabernacle shall be in peace. Job 5:22-24. To pass from the metaphysical training into the absolute way requires a comprehensive understanding of what constitutes the difference between them. In metaphysics, one's attention is given to ways and means to overcome, to treat, to demonstrate. In the absolute, none of this is present. Our whole aim and desire is to understand how to live in spiritual existence now. The great revelation is that we must live in harmony with ourself, and to the extent that we can do this, we are happy, we are whole and prosperous continuously. Our consciousness is our world and everything in it. As we continue to behold the self only, to love and to be this self in thought and action, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God. 2 Corinthians 10:5. We shall know the meaning of life eternal and of peace that is continuous and lasting. When we live so as to please the one consciousness, we love and live spiritually. Love for the perfect, by the perfect, is the perfect way, where we see face to face. To live this way, we must think, love, and feel with the heart. Then inspiration and illumination become natural and are ever with us. The constant everyday living with ourselves takes us farther and farther away from all tendency to demonstrate anything. We know that we always have, as our very own, all things that belong to us. Living this way, we naturally want to withdraw from all forms of worship which do not measure up to reality and truth. Our self becomes our all and everything. As the sun has light infinite enough to supply every single ray, so God, the self of us all, can provide everything for us if we but identify ourselves as this one alone. The absolute way is deep and high. It is sure and certain. It is the self which is here and now and alone. Every earthly thing shall fail, but the eternal is the eternal always. This day, wherein the scriptures are fulfilled, we live more completely, more fully, and more gloriously than ever before.